Ken Harper?
Sure. Well, first of all, Kim, I just want to say thank you to you and the North Carolina constituent guardians for putting together this platform that truly allows Americans to voice their concerns as it relates to our constitutional freedoms and protecting them as such. And also a happy Mother's Day to you and my beautiful wife and my mother and sister. I'm actually in the eastern part of North Carolina, so I wasn't able to spend the day with my family because these are some of the sacrifices that we have to make in order to fight for North Carolina and save our great constitutional republic. But I want to allude to some of the things that you are speaking on because I've seen this process. I initially started this process trying to get enrolled with the Federal Election Committee back in February. I had made my initial campaign launch in May, but all in all, understanding this process, I've been doing it for about 15 months. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about the list of candidates, which you talk about is about 14 candidates. I myself have been running a grassroots campaign, meaning that I didn't take any special interest dollars, any PAC dollars from the perspective of having those types of funds. And the NCGOP pretty much has put the platform that is the criteria for whom they really truly see are individuals that they want to be in this race. So it's been a lot of partiality or impartiality as relates to this process. The other component I really want the constituents to know is that list of 14 individuals, some of those individuals I've never seen in this process. I've been in 85 counties myself. I have participated in at least 7 senatorial forums around the state. And 3 of those were actually polled with Mark Walker, of which I came in second place. And that can be verified. That's in Guilford County, it was in Catawba County, and in Durham County. And there were straw polls at the end of that. But I've never had the opportunity to be polled with the other candidates. And as it relates to some of the outstanding debates that took place, the John Locke Foundation, we petitioned and knocked on the door to participate, but we didn't hit the criteria. And interestingly enough, they had an open podium, and I was registered for that event and attended that event. And I also spoke and lamented with the people who were in charge there about really their lack of discretion and voting the voice of the electorate. And see, yes, ma'am, I did. And honestly, there's been so many instances. We've been really truly fighting to try to get our message out. We are at a threshold of about $34,000, but for someone who's never ran for political office, has no name recognition, no political pedigree, that's pretty good standards. And all those dollars have come from everyday hardworking constituents who are sick and tired of being sick and tired. And so we have been blocked in many convention opportunities. Certain counties have not allowed us to speak, even including my own home county, where I was a delegate at the convention last year. So until we really get true North Carolina GOP leaders who care about North Carolina and care about the constituents of North Carolina and want to follow our Constitution and truly want to protect the interests of North Carolina, we are truly going to be in an uphill battle. But we can't give up. I truly want the electorate to be encouraged tonight because, if you really think about the great founding of our country, the United States of America, they were facing tyranny from the British king, and they truly had an uphill battle. But God was with them. And so I just want to encourage North Carolina that we cannot give up. We cannot get disheartened, but we got to organize. That's one of the components that I truly believe that a lot of us really are just shocked. A lot of the totalitarianism that is going on in the United States of America. And we are waking up into all the evil, everything from locking down our churches to, masking our students and shutting down our businesses and our corporations and truly locking down the United States of America. And so we're really kind of scrambling, but I think we truly need to stay the course. And really galvanize the grassroots, come together as a team, stop all this talking about each other, stabbing each other in the back, come together collectively because together we can work as a strong team and we can take our constitutional republic back. But I'm not intimidated by these games that the NCGOP play. I can't be bought, and I'm not willing to capitulate with enemies who truly don't have the prosperity in heart for North Carolina. And so I'm a fighter. I'm concerned. I'm a husband and a father. I have 4 daughters and a grandson, and I don't recognize this country. And truly, if we don't get leaders in place that will stand for what's right and pay whatever price that price may be, we're not going to have a constitutional republic.
Well, I'm just happy to hear you say a constitutional republic.
Yes,
Many
ma'am.
are like democracy. And
No. we have definitely a constitutional republic, and those rights are being impeded upon every single day. If you look at what's coming down the pipeline, I mean, I don't even understand why we haven't heard more statements coming out the GOP as it relates to this information board. This is a complete infringement upon our First Amendment right. And we truly cannot take down. We have to recognize this moment in time that we are in right now, and truly stand and fight for our Constitution, and also make sure that our elected officials are adhering to fighting for our freedom of speech. I mean, the freedom of speech right now is being controlled through algorithm and technocrats who truly want to manipulate the narrative and use algorithms that potentially can change the minds of individuals and also impede the conservative movements. And so, we definitely have to fight back against the oligarchs who want to impede upon our constitutional freedoms and our rights to assemble and our rights to redress our grievances. And also, when we look at what has happened in 2020 and in 2021 with COVID-19, I'm just disheartened that we as Americans have allowed the government with arbitrary power to remove our freedoms away without putting up a stronger fight, shutting down our churches. The government does not have the right or the authority to keep individuals from assembling together. And then when you look at all the information that, especially with COVID, drugs that have been on the market for years that were safe, that were time tested, were replaced with other drugs that really, in retrospect, were more expensive, were less effective, and also too, the voices of many of our medical professionals who understand vaccines were completely silenced. Individuals were completely counseled. And so we have to, one, get back to the foundation of everything that took place in 2020 that was wrong and that was evil. It's time to bring forth the CDC to hold them accountable, Dr. Fauci, all these big tech oligarchs who made a ton of money off the backs of the American people. We have to get back to stand and fighting for what was right. When we look at all the governors, the autocrat governors who truly tried to dictate us and lock us in our homes, and many businesses are truly still struggling because they incentivize people to stay home. They incentivize individuals with extended rent moratoriums, but expected business owners to still pay the taxes and on those things. And even a lot of the the federal dollars as it relates to the state of North Carolina, their coffers are filled. And so I believe right now there really should be a reprieve from the perspective of or some type of program to help business owners who are struggling to find employees, or at least reduce the state and federal taxes to help business owners get back on their feet, and so we can really get back to a robust and strong economy right now. But the Biden administration don't want that. The Biden administration from day one, we see they refuse to secure our borders. And this is truly a problem for the United States of America, how we are literally sending billions of dollars overseas, playing the world police when we cannot even secure our borders. And we have an epidemic with fentanyl in our country, which is entered into the backyards all over the United States of America. And look at, with COVID, the ages of an individual as it relates to how long they live has also decreased just due to the COVID situation, lack of care. We have people passing away from fentanyl overdoses. We have individuals flooding into our country. We don't know who they are, providing them with entitlements, transportation, cell phones, shelter. And mind you, I believe in legal immigration. That's what I would support. But we have to secure our borders. We got to get energy back. We were energy dependent for the first time in 60 years under President Trump. But here it is on day one. Keystone XL pipeline was shut down, 11,000 jobs lost. And we also see that LNG contracts from the Department of Interior they're sitting on their hands. There's projects that they could be doing that could bring these energy prices down. But we just see just the arbitrary overreach of the federal government. We truly have to fight and get individuals who are going to stand for protecting the interests of America first. And that's one of the things that I would do as a U.S. Senator.
That sounds fantastic.
Yes, ma'am.
Am I coming through okay?
Yes, ma'am. I can hear you just fine.
So, from a national perspective and how we have been affected as North Carolinians through the cost of gasoline, through the cost of food, and
Yes.
just everyday households, how as a representative on the Hill can you help us when I see that we've got not only a problem with the liberals, but we also have a rhino problem.
Right.
So when you talk about restructuring and reorganizing, I just, can't thank you enough for, I'm sure you had a call to do this.
Yes,
and standing to that call and fighting for what's right, because that's what we need. We need a complete reorg of the entire judicial, political, everything, because it's so upside down. And
yes.
When you're talking about just those national issues, when we're looking at the fentanyl deaths, by the time the death rate from COVID had hit a tenth of what the fentanyl overdoses are, the entire globe had shut down. And yet no one is doing a thing about the overdose. No one's doing a thing about the mental health. And then we talk about mental health, and we have to give consideration to healthcare. And, as much as people want to make that sound fluffy and stuff, that ACA stuff is a joke. It is not meant for the middleman. No,
not at all.
I haven't had healthcare since that whole thing was inducted. Because what I think a lot of people don't understand is it's income based. And when I was first looking at it, it was more than my mortgage. In addition to that, because I couldn't afford it, I was also fined at the end of the year.
Absolutely.
And until Trump did away with that fine, it was like,
until Trump, absolutely. Trump got rid of that mandate. Yes.
So I'm glad to hear you're preaching to the choir on what we would love to see as Americans and specifically to North Carolina. But I have a couple of questions. I think this year is the year of the parent, or the election year of the parent. And I think parents' voices are being silenced in one capacity and being acknowledged in another. So when you're looking at, these same people who want pro-choice, okay, it's pro-choice as long as it's not about the hokey pokey. It's pro-choice as long as parents can't be involved in school. So when we're going down to the parents, and where do you stand when it comes to parents being involved, the education, the kids, the CRT, the SEL, the whole thing that has parents upset, and including the books that, for whatever reason, still remain in the libraries of some school, even though they fall under a statute of North Carolina law that is distribution of pornography to minors. I know that was a lot. I'm sorry.
No, well, it's okay, because it's so much going on. Kim, really, when you look at the points that you just allude to, we are in the midst of a communist culture revolution right now. And so what we see right now that's taking place in the schools just did not happen overnight. Really, I believe that this cancer has metastasized, and we have allowed it to grow because it's been very strategic and very shrewd in how it has really infiltrated our school boards, our curriculums, just because really in retrospect, unfortunately, maybe some of us parents were not really looking at the curriculum as closely as we need to. I stand with, first of all, the state and the federal government does not have the right to rear or raise my child from the perspective of, eradicating my parental rights and my say as it relates to the education that I want my child to receive. I believe right now, what we're seeing right now is just massive indoctrination. And from the perspective of, instead of children being able to read and learning history, learning economics and core fundamentals that truly can make them a productive citizen here in the United States of America, they've been indoctrinated with sexualization, inoculation with masks and forced vaccines, and brought to bear with subjects that truly be told are just evil. Just let me put it that way. And we cannot take down with this. We cannot allow them to try to manipulate us or shame us into being able to speak up for our children and do what is right. This is a fight between good and evil, and we must pretty much organize and let them know that we're not going to take down. We're going to basically eradicate this sexual orientation a message out of the school. Because actually, at the end of the day, when you really truly look at the Supreme Court justice who has, weak on pedophilia individuals coming into the court system, that's another thing that they want to do. Make pedophilia just something that it's okay. This person has a psychological problem, and where we going is just toxic. It's nothing but Marxist communist ideology that has moved into the United States of America, and the Democratic Party has been infiltrated with this. And until the grassroots truly come together collectively, meaning that we have to work every single day strategically as a country to eradicate our government and our state governments of individuals who are succumbing to this ideology, who support this ideology. We need to get control of campaign finance, which a lot of this is coming from global elites who truly want to do away with our Constitution and bring forth a one world government and impede the voices of myself and many other candidates who speak very adamantly about the evil that has entered into our country. So I will stand for protecting the rights of the parents. But at the end of the day, on the federal level, I really shouldn't be expanding government into education. It's unconstitutional. It should be in the hands of the states, but the parents definitely need to be at core purpose of making the decisions of the education of their children and protecting them from the evils and the influence of communist culture ideology.
Well, that was amazing. I know Mark gave that 2 thumbs up.
Well, thank you, sir.
Man, your passion is like electric.
Well, to God be the glory. I just love people. I didn't really talk a little bit about my background. I grew up in North Carolina. I grew up in High Point, North Carolina. I grew up in a Christian conservative home, 2 parents. My dad and mom are still married today, 48 years. My dad's a pastor. He's also drives trucks. And so I've been an entrepreneur for the last 26 years. I've always been pro-life. My daughter was born, my oldest daughter. I have 4 daughters and a grandson. My oldest daughter was born 2 weeks after I graduated high school. I had to make a decision: do I go to college or raise my daughter? I decided to raise my daughter, and that's how I became an entrepreneur. By the time I was 20 years old, I was working in the business community. But for the last 16 years, I've worked in the financial service arena, working with entrepreneurs and business owners. So for one, I understand fiduciary responsibility, meaning that you put the interests of others before yourself. You find solutions for your client. And that's really what a politician is supposed to be. An elected official is supposed to listen to the people and gather data, talk to experts, and really bring forth solutions that follow our Constitution and that protect the freedoms of Americans. Because there's no other greater country than America. I don't care what anybody says, that we're the last domino of freedom. And that's what I want to do. And one of the things I have proposed in my platform from day one is something that I call the Carolina Consensus, because at the end of the day, people have lost complete faith in elected officials. They get elected, we support them, and they get to DC, and they don't return our calls. They don't comply with the Constitution. They're there for personal gain. As a matter of fact, I have my own line. I say we are tired of plastic polyurethane politicians who are pat in their pocket and using political propaganda against the people. And so one of the things that I want to do is put forth the Carolina Consensus. And what it is before I take any vote, I'm going to have a database and a web database, and it'll be connected to all 100 counties in North Carolina. And I'm going to be working with boots on the ground in North Carolina, because there's no way that as a United States Senator, I can be effective and legislate effectively for 10 million people trying to be a one-man team. So that consensus allows me to understand what's going on in New Hanover County or Gifford County or Buncombe County with people on the ground. And before I vote on any measure or legislation, I will put that bill up. I will take a pulse in real time of North Carolina as it relates to how they want me to vote on this issue. And it will be measured by my morality, which is linked to the Bible and my morality. And that's how I will vote, meaning that my spiritual morality belief based off biblical principles and the Constitution, and listening to the people of North Carolina. And I think that will allow me to build trust with North Carolinians as it relates to how I am going to listen to their voice, and they will know that they will have some type of trusted voice in the United States Senate for them. And then from that perspective, what we have to do is we have to become a force within the federal government, meaning that after I get elected, we got to get Tom Tillis out. Okay, and we got to be cultivating another relationship of another United States Senator and be preparing for that race, and also make sure that who he or she is, they don't have to deal with the obstacles that I had to deal with, and they will be able to have a strong platform, and they will have the support of the people. But we start doing that right now, and that also starts in the North Carolina House and in the North Carolina Senate, and then we have to begin to come together strategically, and then we just have to put our heads down and go to work, and just don't be afraid by the evil, and don't be afraid, and let's take our constitutional back, because it's we are the people, and we's the one who have the power, and we cannot allow arbitrary power to continue, because we won't have a posterity and we won't have a future. And people keep talking about, well, next time, Ken, it might not be a next time. So we need to get the right people elected this time and get people in office so we can get off this trajectory of the cliff that we're on here in America.
Yeah. And what a novel idea to actually, be somebody who is that voice and listens to the people, your constituents. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, that's the job, yet they've somehow garnered away from that. And yeah, you're so right on all of that. And I like the fact that you're thinking ahead, particularly with Tillis's seat, and just cultivating these grassroots, average, normal people. That's what I'm 100% about. Is you can't pretend to walk in someone's shoes. You can't pretend to have some type of relationship via, I can relate, or empathy, when you've not grown up the way I grew up. You've not grown up the way you've grown up. You don't know. You've had a spoon in your mouth since the day you were born. So getting back to the grassroots, and I love that you're getting so much support from the grassroots community, because I think, I love that all your support's coming from grassroots, and I love that there are so many grassroots efforts out there, because that shows us that trajectory, at least there are enough people awake and aware to what's going on, that they do want to put the brakes on the nonsense.
Absolutely. Yes. We were endorsed. I got my first endorsement for North Carolina grassroots for government. And I would say I earned that. That was not given to me. And that's what the other thing I want to talk to, that long list of candidates. Many of those candidates, they are not working. Okay. And another thing, I'm not here really to, I have not tore into these political candidates about where their money comes from. Not publicly, I have not. As the electorate, we really need to start doing our own homework and due diligence.
Absolutely.
You know, and let me say this, God's will is going to be done. But let me give you an example. Even if I didn't win the primary, if Ted Budd won the primary, I still have a problem from the perspective of how he ran his campaign. I've been running on my own dime. I've been in 85 counties, trying to listen to the people, answer their questions. He won't even show up. This and see, this is the problem when basically also too, I love President Trump's policies. Okay, but at the end of the day, I didn't. First of all, what he did when he endorsed Mr. Budd, he actually opened up a door for me. He really did. I was there at the convention, and much of the electorate was upset about the endorsement because they said we don't endorse during the primary. And so it actually opened up a door for me. I had many people that came to me and they said, we don't know Mr. Budd, and we don't know you either. So won't you just come and talk to us? And that's how I actually cultivated many of these relationships because of the endorsement. And so my issue is I want to be able to get behind candidates, even if I wasn't the nominee. But I'm seeing so much corruption within the United States Senate race, even as some of them are just tied to investigations and things of that nature. And then another thing is, when we look at the electorate, when we have PAC dollars that come in, and that the way it works in super PACs, they can donate an endless amount of money, and you as the candidate, you don't have a right to say about the commercial or what's being said. So when you pretty much come in and slander your other component within our party, you're making you're increasing divisiveness, and you're dividing the party in small factions. And that's how we were created. That's how we were defeated back in the end of the 19th century, when the Democratic machine was created by Ford Simmons, who created a Democratic propaganda machine to make white Americans afraid, because Black Americans were earning political power during the end of the Reconstruction period. And so the Democrats are completely organized. And I don't know if you really know my background, but I'm a recovering Democrat. Okay. And one of the things that I try to have explained during this process is, many people have been apolitical, meaning that they have not really did their homework and due diligence to understand our Constitution, what they truly believe and what they stand for, and what the political parties stand for. And also, the Republican Party hasn't told their story very well, meaning that the Republican Party was the party that did away with slavery, that made sure popular sovereignty wouldn't increase across the United States. They passed the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th Amendment. But if you ask most Americans with that question, they think the Democrats are the ones who stood up for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, when the Democrats have been trying to tear that down and basically didn't want to be a part of the Union. And so until we truly begin to start educating that component, especially as it relates to white and Black relations in this country, I'm so sick and tired of racism being the mantra of the day. It is a small faction. Most white and Black Americans, we get along together. We don't have issues. This is not some systemic racist country. You're not my oppressor. I'm not oppressed. I live in the greatest country in the world. I can think and articulate myself and understand the liberties and freedoms that I have. And so until we get a base that we can start educating people and coming together strategically and helping people understand their rights and what their liberties are, and that they are at stake, then we're going to be on a downward trajectory, because pretty much the media, left-wing media, and also many rhinos, are capitulating with our enemies and drowning out the voice of everyday hardworking people. And I'm just willing to fight them, and I'm not willing to compromise, and I'm not willing to back down, because what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose your soul?
Yeah. Well, so you talked about it a little bit. So when it comes to perpetuating division, I think one of the worst perpetuators of that is Joe Biden. And where he said that he was going to bring unity. This guy has done nothing, nothing. And now he's encouraging, that these people go dox and harass the people of the Supreme
Yeah.
Court, the churches. And, I think the churches really got a lot of heat this weekend, particularly the Catholic churches, which is kind of astounding considering that Joe Biden is a Catholic, but I digress. Coming back to North Carolina, you're right. And when it comes to, I want to go back a little bit, because when we were talking about education, I know one of the things that's very important to the parents is the CRT, and those books. And I wasn't really clear on where you stood on those books and
Well, I'm not with CRT, period. I don't stand for critical race theory. We don't need critical race theory in our schools. I mean, critical race theory, again, we need to be teaching American history. Okay, I'm an astute, avid reader, and I love history, and that's part of the problem what we're having in this country. See, most people don't even understand what they're seeing right now. I don't support. I mean, I have 4 daughters and a grandson. I don't support pornography. Good God, I'm a minister. This is ridiculous. Okay, this mess that's in school. That's exactly what it is. It's mess. Okay, and it should not be in school. It should not be something that is held out to children to even see. It's age inappropriate. Instead of the gingerbread man, now we got the genderbread man. When I think about women's rights, women should be appalled right now. As a father, I don't want nobody going in the bathroom with my daughters and my wife that's a man like me, a biological man like me. We already saw what happened in Loudoun County in Virginia with that transgender going into the bathroom, assaulting young women. There's 2 genders. There's male and female. That's exactly what God created. Okay. And at the end of the day, we've taken God out of the United States of America. This country was founded on Judeo-biblical Christian principles. It was founded on the Bible, meaning that pretty much in essence, whether you believe in God or not, what's unique about the Constitution is it protects your religious liberty for you to believe the beliefs that you have and the beliefs that I have. And so that to me is common ground. But just this ideology of you trying to force things down my throat from the perspective of me trying to call you a he or she or it or whatever it is you want me to call you, I'm going to call you what God said we were, a man or a woman. And so this is appalling, what we're seeing that's happening to our students. So if I wasn't clear, I apologize. But no, I don't support critical race theory. I don't, this sexual orientation, gender identity politics. It's communism. That's what it is. It's communism that's trying to implode on the constitutional republic and make the state God. And I am completely opposed to any measures that would put these types of curriculum in schools and make children be subject to answer questions about if they're a male or a female. So, I don't support this at all. We got to get back to the basics, man, because we so far off. I don't even recognize this country. I'm getting dizzy on this interview because this is crazy. This is crazy what's happening in America.
Well, I don't want you to be busy because I've got some more to go, but
sure, no, go ahead.
Think about, I did catch that you said, at a federal level, you shouldn't have to be brought into, this stuff because that's the Constitution. But when we look at, like, say, Mark Robinson, and, he to me is the fighter that we need. And he stands alone so many times. Whether it's about, the education or whatever, like the North Carolina GOP has not stood behind Mark Robinson the way I think they should, nor have they acted on our behalf the way I think they should. And I look at Mark Robinson, and when you think about how you feel and how vocal and how passionate you are, how are you prepared to handle the backlash that Mr. Robinson is getting? Because you will too. Because you're
Yeah,
going to be one of those MAGA crazy people that, you know, Biden has just assigned us to just because we're conservatives, we have to have some derogatory name.
yeah, no, I definitely admire the courage of the lieutenant governor and his stance that he has taken with with his facts and ridding our schools of an indoctrination. I've had a conversation with the lieutenant governor maybe about 6, 8 months ago, and I'm one of his arch supporters. Because I believe he's a man of integrity. He's a man of God, first and foremost. It takes a lot of courage to do what he's willing to do, but he's an uncompromised man of Christ, and like myself. And so we had a great conversation. And you know, we as men of God, at the end of the day, we know that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and wicked spirits. And so this is a spiritual battle. And so it's a spiritual battle also in the NCGOP. You know, I've been very vocal. I think if you go on some of my Twitter, I have not been quiet about how the NCGOP leadership has treated me. On day one, they didn't even want me to speak at the convention on day one. I had to have the Black conservatives and Lee Haywood intervene that actually forced their hand. And literally then I had to walk to the front and stare them down before they were going to let me on stage. So we have some problems with our leadership inside the North Carolina GOP. But we're standing on our principles, and a lie can never live. Okay, Martin Luther King said that. So, you know, at the end of the day, these individuals who are linked to corruption, linked to lies, and truly want to dismantle our constitutional freedoms, I don't believe that it's going to stand. And, you know, we have to be willing to make the sacrifices of ridicule and take the punches in order to protect our electorate, and be willing to put our name, our reputation at stake for righteousness. But that's exactly what Jesus did. You know, the government murdered Jesus, but he wasn't willing to capitulate with his enemies. He was willing to stand up on his and do his father's bidding and pay the sacrifice, the sacrificial price that was paid for his blood being shed for the remission of sin. And so at the end of the day, you know what? There may be some sacrifices. Okay, we're in a new movement. We're in the communist revolution movement of the 21st century. It has started. It has begun. And you better get your helmet of salvation, your breastplate of righteousness, the sturdy belt of truth. You better have your feet sharp with the preparation of peace. You better have your sword, which is the word of God, and you need your shield, which is the faith. And so at the end of the day, I have Mr. Robinson back. He needs some enforcement. That's the only way that we're going to be able to make changes in North Carolina. And they better know that we're not fearful. God didn't give us a spirit of fear. That's what they don't understand. The God that we serve has not given us a spirit of fear, but a power, love, and a sound mind. So we don't have to sit up here and be afraid of elites or evil or the corruption or what would happen to us if we say or do certain things. The Constitution has given us that right. Matter of fact, if we look here, in the Declaration of Independence, I just want to give me 1 second, read this real quick. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That's us. That's us, the constituents, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends. And actually, that's what the majority of Americans were doing on January 6th. You never hear any about the peaceful protesters that were there praying and asking God to intervene with the tyranny that was taking place and the lack of election integrity that we also have seen here in North Carolina. There were almost 8,000 decedents, meaning deceased individuals that are still on the roll and on the books in North Carolina. And some of these individuals have been deceased for 2 decades, okay? And then on top of that, we've got judges who strike down ID, okay? When, my God, if you drove to the polls, you got an ID in your pocket, just pull it out so we can verify who you are, okay? I mean, this is ludicrous. A right that's as important as voting should be brought to something as frivolous as being deemed as racist to show an ID, when generally speaking, you got to have an ID to do any type of financial transaction in the United States of America. So, and it also says this part right here. It says that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is in the right of the people to alter, or it says abolish. I didn't write this. Thomas Jefferson did. And it is and to institute a new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and their happiness. But now we still see many of the January 6th individuals, and I don't condone misbehavior. Okay, what I am saying is that first and foremost, every single one of those individuals also have the right under the Constitution to a speedy trial. Okay, yep. What we are seeing is political prisoners being held in contempt by the federal government and utilizing this to stifle the MAGA movement, which in essence it stands for the Constitution. One of the biggest things that I'll tell you in retrospect that just I'm going to say the President Trump in essence didn't do well is the work that he was doing that was the Abraham Accords, the First Step Act, strong economic freedom, securing our borders. It was basically lost. Some of it was not on his part, but the media obviously painting him as the devil. Okay, and so many people followed his personality instead of following his policies. Okay, at the end of the day, I ain't got to go home with President Trump. Okay, his policy is what affected the lives of Americans, and that got lost. And so he didn't have an effective enough team that was putting forth the good work that he was doing, that was impacting our economy, that was putting America first, that was building a strong economy, that was really truly helping minority communities, standing for religious freedoms, reducing Planned Parenthood dollars. The man did a lot of good things, but it got drowned out with impeachment and allegations, and nobody could truly see the things that he was doing. And so, if we as the Republican Party could come together and really put forth policies that affect people's lives and stop looking at all the rhetoric that we're seeing on the media that just promulgates so much fakeness, then we can truly get on a trajectory that will show Americans that we can have some type of civil discourse. We've got a constitution that can protect the posterity of the future. Implement some type of morality back into our society, because you cannot continue going on this trajectory and expect that we're going to stand together as a country. Because if we stay on this course, I would hell to see what would happen in the future. Because we can't stand for what we're seeing.
I have a quick question, and then I know Mark's got a question for you. Would you support or stand with Marjorie Taylor Greene in impeachment proceedings for the removal of Biden?
Yes, yes, I would, because I think Joe Biden is working against the American people. I mean, how do you send billions of dollars overseas to other countries and you don't even secure the borders in your home country? How do you basically take us from being energy dependent to basically doubling our inflation on gas costs? How do you basically capitulate with evil and force people to stay in their homes, force children to wear masks, shut down businesses, and really, instead of looking at science, you use political science. And really, I would completely stand against the tyranny that we're seeing right now in our federal government. I wouldn't have a problem standing with my principles, because I know on the trajectory that we're heading, we're not going to have a country. And this is just ludicrous where we're at. And then we don't even have enough Republicans putting up enough legislation to even push back on what's being done. The leaks from the Supreme Court, and now they're trying to bully. This is nothing but a play from the left to start debate and protest and stipulate fear and manipulation, because I do believe that Roe versus Wade will be overturned, but I believe that outside forces from the left truly want to manipulate our courts and intimidate our justices to get them to change their mind. So right now, our constitutional public is truly at risk, and I definitely would support impeachment against Joe Biden. For one, I don't even believe the election was legitimate, and I've been adamant about that. I'm just, we can't let it go. We need to continue to fight to see what happened that on that election night. It just wasn't right. You have something that settles in your heart and your spirit and your stomach. I'm not settled about that. And I think we truly need to dig deeper. I think Dinesh D'Souza has a movie out called 2000 Mules. I haven't had a chance to view it yet, but I'm anxious to look and see what type of data that he's came up with. Seth
I'm gonna watch
Cashel.
that when we're done with this.
Okay, great. Yeah, Seth Cashel has been talking about election integrity and all the irregularities that we saw in the bellwether states all across all across the United States. Just records that were just the irregularities, the abnormalities that we saw in the elections. The fact that they don't even want to have voter ID. All 15 million ballots were unaccounted for. Absentee ballots were sent back to the United States Postal Service as well. So we got to dig deeper into these election integrity, and that should be something that all Americans, Democrat, Republicans, Independents, should be concerned about. But when it's something that just continues to be ignored, then you truly have to continue to shine a floodlight on it until we get to the bottom of it, and don't let it go until all grievances are addressed.
Well, which do you think would be the fastest, most effective, and most consumer friendly or taxpayer friendly to move forward with articles of impeachment, or to let's start looking at the 25th Amendment, because I think he meets that criteria as well?
I mean, the man is clearly incompetent. I mean, he can't hardly, walk and chewing gum at the same time. And I mean, some of the comments that he makes is completely ludicrous. We definitely should. I believe, I don't know the best course of action. I would seek legal counsel. I'm not an attorney, but I believe those are two viable courses that we could go: impeachment or the 25th Amendment. Just on his ability from being his lack of incoherence and his competence to articulate himself as the president of the United States of America is truly in question. And so I think that we do need to pursue that. And I just feel like we have too many in the GOP who aren't doing enough to bring Joe Biden on the carpet. But it's even scarier to have the Kathleen Hyena Harris to know that she would be filling his shoes. So we are truly in a precarious situation.
Nancy.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's why I believe we can't let go what happened in 2020 until we get to the bottom of it. And even the Chris Durham probes, with all the infiltration that took place in President Trump's presidency, we've got to get back to. The Department of Justice is corrupt. Just look at what's going on in our military, the wokeism that has entered into our military. I believe I read somewhere yesterday, like over 500 individuals in the Army have left because they refuse to be vaccinated. So we're losing the best and the brightest of our military, which makes us look weak on the stage. I mean, we need the hand of God just to intervene. We've got so many holes right now in the Constitution and in our boat. We're sinking fast, but I do believe help is on the way.
Mark?
I'm sorry?
So I want to just step in here and just give you an opportunity to address something about. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you, Mark.
Okay. So about 3 weeks ago, after you got the North Carolina grassroots government endorsement, I posted it up in this group, the endorsement, and the first few comments that came through were comments like, who is this guy? Where's, never heard of him before. And so we shared your website and there was some discussion. It came to a point where it kind of started a firestorm. I wanted to read this first comment and give you an opportunity to address it to this group.
Okay.
This first comment says, No way. Affiliation with Jesse Jackson, radical Democrat, is a definite no for me. And then there was a lot of discussion back and forth. And I wanted to give you an opportunity to address that to this group of, so you take a minute and address that with this. And
sure, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem addressing it at all. Here's the thing. I find this very interesting. And I think I was asked this question on the KC O'Day show. One of the things that I think people fail to think and realize is, people have their own metamorphosis as relates to their political ideology and their associations, because too many people fail to realize that Ronald Reagan was a long-term Democrat out in Hollywood before he became a Republican. And what basically changed his ideology was he had a group of conservative friends that really, and he saw just the infiltration of the federal government impeding the film industry. And let's be real, Donald Trump was a long-term Democrat who gave money to Hillary Clinton, worked with Jesse Jackson. I think people just have like this short-term mindset. But as it relates to me personally, first and foremost, here is just a huge disconnect. And it took my metamorphosis of things of coming about. Well, for one, in North Carolina, I've worked in the prisons, schools, and churches. I was doing a lot of voluntary work in High Point and Greensboro. I worked with the Cherie Denise Jackson Foundation, which was the domestic violence organization. I worked for Welfare Liaison Project, teaching financial literacy in Caswell County to convicted prisoners, and also another group in Greensboro called Heads Up for Our Youth. And I was speaking at a bunch of elementary schools. This is what I've been doing, and just by nature, and also with my business. And so basically, because I was so active out in the community, I was recruited by Democrats. And so Republicans have got to get more involved out into the community. And then let's really understand where we are right now. Most Americans identify the political realm, sadly, by race. Okay, that's identity politics. Okay, most Americans who truly have not did their homework and their due diligence in understanding what communism and what socialism represents. For example, a lot of people don't even realize communism has killed 100 million people just in the last century. Okay, and so for me, when I read the book Color, Communism, and Common Sense by Manning Johnson, who was an African American, who was basically recruited by Russians in the beginning of the 20th century. His book, published in the 60s, read like a 2021 newspaper. And that's when I began to actually do a deep dive in history. See, I push back on all that, because at the end of the day, the first time I ever voted, I voted for George W. Bush, who ain't nothing but a global elitist, oligarch. And there's nothing that's conservative about him. His daddy, R. Prescott. Let's go, the Prescott who helped fund Hitler. So, I had to do my own homework and my own due diligence. So for me, because of the work that I was doing strategically in financial literacy in the African-American community, naturally Democrats came and saw, hey, you're a sharp guy. We've got this going on. And so I was apolitical. I always had problems with homosexual marriage. I always had a problem with abortion. Okay. So, but at the end of the day, I had a voice at the table. I didn't see any Republicans saying, hey, Kenny, you're doing a lot of good work out here for the community. Why don't you come to one of our GOP meetings? Okay. I wasn't actively involved in politics. I was an entrepreneur, okay, who basically knew I had to create a paycheck. And the more networking that I did and the more opportunities that I got to speak, that helped expand my business. Now, let's talk a little bit about also the other reason why I was there. I wasn't some naive a Democrat. First of all, I wanted to talk to Reverend Jesse Jackson and the Black civil rights leaders in the country who have the voice of 42 million African Americans. And I wanted to talk to them about the LBJ policies of the 60s of the Great Recession that had basically decimated the Black families, and why they weren't doing anything with these laws that's been on the books for 40 and 50 years. See, I basically, when I look at so many people that we want to talk about, why you did this, I ask them, what are you doing? Okay, I put $30 million of life insurance into the Black communities in the last 7 to 8 years, and I have white clients as well, trying to make a difference, trying to bridge gaps in this country, and trying to understand. So this thing about trying to put labels on people, man, I'm a man of God. I care about people, and one of the things that actually it makes me unique. I had this same conversation today with some people in the GOP. Because of my entrepreneur background, I've won over 50 trips in my career as a businessman. And I'm talking about nice trips. Okay. And so that experience has allowed me to, number one, I don't care how much money you have, I can talk to you. I don't care how broke you are, I can talk to you, and I can actually speak language that we can actually have a great conversation. And guess what? That's completely missing right now. Okay. What I bring to the table, none of the other GOP candidates have. Okay. I bring something that is completely unique. And what woke me up? I'll tell you another thing that woke me up. When I was on, let me tell you why I got connected there. I had a reason to go there. When I have my Series 6, my Series 63, and my Series 26, which are investment and securities licenses, okay? And I had those licenses for a decade. And here in North Carolina, when I wanted to become an independent broker, the good old boys didn't want to appoint me, okay? So I went to Wall Street, and Reverend Jesse Jackson had an event called Push on Wall Street. So I went to tell them, I said, hey, listen, I'm on Main Street. I have security and investment licenses. I'm truly trying to teach financial literacy, help our kids go to college, help business owners. I'm putting insurance into the community. And I said, the regulatory authorities on the federal level and the local level are impeding my business. Can you help me? And lo and behold, would you know that there was a vice president for FINRA that was there that night? That I went in and addressed my grievances to him. He told me to send him an email and he would do everything he could to help me. What happened? Well, the door shut in my face. I lost my Series 6, my 26, and 63 licenses. That was the first time that I saw that the Democrats did not care for people. They said they were the party of the people. Now let's take it back forward. Now, what I did when I was in the Democratic Party, first and foremost, with President Trump, I started waking up to President Trump instead of being subjected to listening to media about President Trump. I actually read his policy. Okay, I actually read the First Step Act, which basically went where laws that were put where crack was put into the Black community by the CIA. Okay? That's not real stuff. That's another thing. I like about real stuff. People don't really want to talk about all these things that the government then did and actually really set people up for failure. Okay.
Like Biden.
Absolutely. Joe Biden, the super predator bill, Joe Biden has never been for people of color. He's been connected to the Ku Klux Klan. Okay. So again, I started studying President Trump's policies. Okay. And then let me talk about this. You know who told me about the opportunity zones, which was Senator Tim Scott's legislation? That was passed under President Trump's administration. The Democrats were the first ones who taught me about opportunity zones. Okay, so then I started reading about President Trump's policies, and I said, "Man, wait a minute! You mean to tell me President Trump created the First Step Act, and then he's helping African American men get released from prison? You mean to tell me President Trump basically gave $250 million for historical Black colleges? You mean to tell me President Trump defunded Planned Parenthood? You mean to tell me that President Trump actually put the Abraham Accord in place and moved the embassy to Jerusalem? And you mean to tell me my income is growing year over year? I'm looking at my business is growing year over year. It's called an awakening. Okay, that's simply what it is. It's called an awakening. And so in retrospect, and another thing, I've been in 85 counties. Okay, in the GOP, and when you go into these GOP meetings, the GOP is about to die. Okay. If you don't get a ton of more Mark Robinsons and people like you and me in those rooms and get some millennials in the room, it's not going to be no GOP. Okay, the GOP, they don't understand succession planning. Okay, you basically got and their children aren't even Republicans. The GOP children went to universities who indoctrinated their children, and most of their children are on the left. Okay, yep. You know how many GOP parents I done met who cried tears because their children won't even talk to them because of the indoctrination that has taken place in universities. What I bring to the table is needed in this moment right now, because we need a conduit. Okay. See, I can have a conversation when I sit and I went about 3 weeks ago and in Stanley County, organized with some Black conservatives. We brought 25 Democrats into the room, and guess what? We asked them who Mark Robinson was. Guess what? They don't even know who Mark Robinson was. Okay. Yeah, they don't know who Mark Robinson was. The first Black lieutenant governor, they didn't even know who he was. Okay. What's my point? I started educating them on the Republican Party about Abraham Galloway, which I'm sitting in right now in New Bern, North Carolina, where Abraham Galloway, who was a former slave who helped create the Republican Party with white legislators. Okay, that's the other component, that the Republican Party has suppressed the history, okay, of the Republican Party. And the Republican Party face pretty much appears in the media as a white elite party that this ain't for Black people. Okay, I'm gonna be completely transparent with because I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this ludicrous talking about I was a Democrat. Yes, I was a Democrat. At least I was transparent about it. At least I didn't hide anything about it. At least I didn't erase my Facebook page. Okay, I told my story. See how many politicians basically come into the party who want to, come over and move over to be a plant to do other things. I came up with a Christian conservative background. Matter of fact, I have a father. Oh, my dad, basically, he listened to Rush Limbaugh. I said, why do you listen to this man? See, I didn't understand. I wasn't there, okay? My dad he didn't like Barack Obama. He always would talk to us. My dad has been a Republican for like 24, 25 years. And he said the same exact thing. He said, when I had to learn, son, I was a Democrat first, but when I looked at my principles and I looked at what the Democrats stand for, I couldn't continue to be on that trajectory with the Democrats. And here's the other thing. When people do come over from the Democratic Party, there's no welcoming committee in the GOP. Okay. All there is a finger point. Oh, you're a Democrat and you're over there. Man, this is ludicrous, man. You don't even understand what conversion is. And then on top of that, you're supposed to be Christian. What do you think we do? We convert people, okay, from their lifestyle. Okay. We convert them into a new way of life. We teach them, we train them. I'm just tired of all this nonsense so yes, I was a Democrat. And guess what? When I was there, I learned a lot. I got to go to Silicon Valley, okay? And then I learned that I was in the wrong place, but at least now I have a firsthand knowledge, being that I went to Google, being that I went to Facebook, seeing what I saw on Wall Street. So I don't make no apologies about my background and where I have been, because it makes me the man that I am today, which means, and I feel that I'm the most qualified to run in this time and in this season, with my background, with my community service, with my business background, and with my understanding of policy and just community. We need a healing component. We don't need somebody to go to Washington, D.C. just for their own personal interest, about padding their own pockets, who don't care anything about the people. And at least when I went to that event, and I make this one point, when I spoke to those 25 Democrats who didn't know who Mark Robinson was, some of those people had masks on. And during my talk, they started taking their masks off. But more importantly, you know what they did? They started filling out voter registrations as non-affiliate voters so they could vote for Kenneth Harper. So I don't care what people say about you. So vote for the swamp then. Good God. If you don't want a man who's been transformed, what you want? I don't get that. I mean, that's exactly what my story is. And I ain't making no excuses about it. At least I was truthful. I told my story from the very beginning, and I put it on the website. So if you go on my business page, Harpo Benefits Alliance, yeah, you'll see a Rainbow Push Coalition. And more importantly, click on some of the videos. Listen to what I was actually saying, okay? Really, because I'm a free market guy. I've been in business for 26 years, okay? I ain't never been no socialist, no communist, okay? And never stood for that ideology. And then when they would talk about reparations, I said, we don't need no reparations. We need to make preparations. We live in the freest business. We have free markets. What good is reparations when people don't even have financial literacy knowledge? What's going to happen to the money? Nothing. You're going to be in the same exact boat doing the same exact thing. So that's my answer. And to those people also, pick up the phone. My number is 336-912-3788. I have a campaign phone. Email me. Don't sit up here and make these ridiculous, ludicrous comments about he's a Democrat. Call me, ask me, talk to me, and then you can find out why I did what I did. And at least what you get from me, you're not going to get from no United States Senate candidate if they even show up. So I don't make no apologies, Mark, about who I am and where I came from. I'm proud of everything that I've done because I did it legally, ethically, and morally. Those three components that don't stand in the political realm right now. I get off my soapbox.
No, thank you. I wanted to give you the opportunity to respond to them, let them hear what you just said.
Yeah, absolutely. Just tell them to call me. I'd be more than happy to talk. I'm more than happy to talk. I'm tired of people lamenting about things instead of actually just communicating and asking somebody a question and not realizing the asset that one can become. And that's what we need. What I'll do in the future, and I said very humbly, I didn't see this path, Mark. I didn't see this path. I was getting ready to launch a whole nother company called Parent Support to address federal government's overreach in the nuclear family. And I heard this call. And so I don't make no apologies about who I am. I stand on my principles, I stand on my faith, and I stand on my experiences because that's what makes me qualified to be the next United States Senator here for North Carolina.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I can tell you one thing. There's so much in everything you say. And when you're talking about due diligence, that's one of the reasons that I, got involved in the capacity that I did. It's Mark Twain said, it's not that people don't know enough, it's that they know too much of the wrong thing. And
wow, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. And it's like you say, somebody's just going to blurt out something that they heard from somewhere else that was probably part of a smear tactic. Or, maybe you were a Democrat, but you mentioned out the gate that you were recovering. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it does, but the point is what it is you have to say. And everything you've said, you've stated so well, and you raised so many valid points, particularly about due diligence. That's the one thing that I have hoped for on this page that we created in this group was to bring awareness. I can deliver every news article from every publication under the sun, but somebody's got to read it, or we can have a conversation, but are you going to just believe what I'm telling you? Or are you going to research it? Because that's how we got to where we are. Yes. However many people believed, and that's the thing. I think one thing positive that came out of 2020, and to your point, was parental awareness of what's going on in schools. We trusted that we could send our children to school, and we trusted and believed that they would come out and they would know how to read, and they would know how to do math, and they would know how to do those fundamental things. And to talk about bringing CRT into a primary education where it is a collegiate elective, it's too much. I mean, let's focus on how about letting them learn how to change a tire, or why don't we let them learn how to sew on a button? Take it back old school because it worked. And
workshop.
The
workshop, the home ec classes, the things that we did when I was in elementary and middle school. Yes.
Right here. And, that's kind of the thing. And, I think that we've become such a lazy society. I believe that government has just banked on the fact that we are going to be an ignorant society. And for the love of God, let's not even bring up the Constitution, because
oh God, what is that?
Exactly. And that little bit, that is the most simplified answer to any question that you have. But what we have to have is people in positions like yourself that are aware of what those are and have the backbone and the fortitude to stand for it, fight for it, listen to us and say, hey, look, Roy Cooper closed my business down, and he has taken away my right to enjoy the fruits of my labor because I can't even create the fruits. And you took away my right to protest about closing my business down, but several months later, you let people raise hell in the streets and tear our downtown Raleigh into shreds
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
violate the property owners of downtown Raleigh. You know, why did their rights supersede the business and the livelihoods and the residents of those areas? Like, why? And so when
And
we
nobody
hear,
brought articles of impeachment against him either.
well, let me tell you something. It is not for the lack of trying.
The Constitution Party in North Carolina actually wrote articles of impeachment. We delivered them to Tim Moore,
Okay.
Berger. We gave them to
Gave him to him
Forrester.
dead end.
We gave them to Dan Forrest as well. And they
Dan
basically
Forrest
said,
was, yeah.
Okay.
thanks, but no, we're not doing it.
Dan
And,
Forrest was running for governor. He was still the acting lieutenant governor at the time. In anybody's sane mind,
Yeah.
if you would to have listened to that voice of North Carolina and took into consideration the 20 plus constitutional violations that had been stepped on by Roy Cooper, he would have won the governorship just off that. But they didn't even try. Tim
Right.
Moore wouldn't bring him up. He to this day won't bring him up. Now he says that it's because they don't have a Republican majority in the Senate to get it to pass. But you know,
the question. So, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Kim. I'm sorry.
it's not for the lack of trying. I mean, Mark can tell you, what did we start? That the Constitution Party started that in what, like July of 2020?
It was before the election. It was well before the
Oh,
election.
yeah.
Yeah, but it just makes you wonder though if they truly, you know, well, again, I guess that's where Republican in name only. You know, I think we have a major rhino problem in North Carolina.
We do.
I mean, it's major. It is major, and we really need to organize. We cannot give up. We cannot quit. And you know, I totally agree with what you're saying. I mean, they ran it as an autocratic state versus a constitutional republic, and you know, we can't feel hopeless because we just got to continue that education process and that due diligence. I mean, nobody told me how to run for the United States. And that's another thing that, you know, I hear these people making all these comments. I had to research this myself. I had to learn what the FEC was all about, file the proper reports, get a treasurer. You know, I had no political background, no coaches, and a complete outsider for one. And you want to run for the United States? And like, yeah, I mean, for real, that takes a lot of courage, but I knew that God was with me, and I know he's still with me. So I just want us to band together, the grassroots. So whether I'm in office or not, I'm not going away. That's been the word from the street. I can tell you that. And so, you know, again, I think that we just got to get more organized. And there's a lot of things, and I'll say it right online. You guys, we can talk about the Democrats all day.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you something about the Democrats since I was in their camp. Okay. The Democrats is organized, okay? They are completely organized. They sing on the same sheet of music, okay? They fund their candidates. You know, I have 800 people on Facebook right now. If all those 800 people would have gave me $21, I would have been on the debate a week and a half ago, okay? I need a $50,000 threshold. And see, those are the types of things that the grassroots, like, it gets frustrating. Like, we're just lamenting and making like ridiculous comments, but we don't want to put no action forward with the complaints. Okay. I mean, it just don't make no sense. I mean, so until we really take an active approach, okay, from the perspective of not just talking, but working strategically. And I'm not talking about basically this, you know, and then we create all these cliques within inside the GOP. It's a problem, okay? Because you set up a screw group, you don't like the screw group. Aren't we fighting CRT? Okay, why we can't get along then? Yeah, instead of CRE being the enemy, now we each other enemy. This is the nonsense that I'm seeing inside the GOP, okay? There is no cohesiveness. The Democrats work on the same sheet of music. They sing the same notes, okay? And they are organized. They train their candidates. They have corporate sponsors, okay? And so this is one of the things that we have got to do is get organized, okay? And come together strategically and put a plan forth that we can work together and defeat the enemy, because a house divided cannot stand. And this party is completely divided. And right now this party in North Carolina is in the hand of a few.
So let me just get this one passing thought, because I know it's getting late for everybody, but when we look at those opportunities, one of the things, so the Constitution Party had a candidate running for governor in 2020 who also did not get an invitation to the debate stage. Of course, we had COVID going on at the time, and so the interactions among the public were limited. He did, Al Pisano is his name. He did travel.
What state was that?
Here, North Carolina.
Okay. I didn't know about him. Okay.
Yeah. Well, it was in 2020, and he ran on the Constitution Party ticket. And so he didn't get that voice. So, me and Mark, Al, we know what it's like to not have a voice. But then when you come and we talk about this reorganization and the structure that's needed and being in tune with the communities, if you said something earlier and it made me think, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
Yep.
So why would we try to clean a machine that's just too dirty and broken down? What's wrong with a new machine or a different machine? And we would call that a third party.
Listen, I am not opposed if the GOP continues on this trajectory. I mean, why do you think the non-affiliated independent voter base has expanded? Because they've lost a ton of their base, okay? And there's a large sector of those voters who are conservative. So you could create a third leg that still can hold and adhere to conservative values. What we do and what we need is we need to make a decision and stick to that decision. I think it takes like 15,000 signatures to start a new party. So I've done that much due diligence.
Well, we can tell you, and I hate to interrupt you, is because we are part of the Constitution Party.
Okay.
But we lost our ballot access because of COVID. So we are in the midst of collecting those ballot signatures that you're talking about, but it's not easy, because what happens, and Mark can speak more to this, is, there's this age-old fear that's it. Well, if we don't vote for a Republican, that's another vote for the Democrat. Well, you know what? That's where we need to be strong, and we need, we need to look at something and do exactly what you're talking about. Organizing, being involved in the community, doing all these things that the majority of conservatives, not just Republicans, but those who are conservative, because you've got Democratic conservatives as well.
I completely concur with you. And, I would love to have a talk with you and Mark offline. There are certain things, there's a
we'll
huge.
Talk about it offline, because I want to keep this about you, but I did want you to know.
Well, what I'm saying is it can be done and needs to be done strategically. And, but I'm going to say this, it needs to be a whole new movement, and we have to bring millennials in and Generation X and baby boomers. It has to be a wave of people actually who are sick and tired from the perspective of being able to build momentum. But I'm definitely open to a conversation with you and Mark offline. But if something doesn't change in the next cycle or so, this toxicity, this corruption, this mess, who wants to be able? I told you my dad is a Republican. He's disheartened right now.
Sure.
And he's ready to abandon the party as well. But it has such rich history that I've learned about. Golly, it seems sad to me to abandon it and allow evil to erode the party. But I'm with you, Ken. We can't continue to do something. We can't continue to do the same thing.
Well, Ken, I want to thank you. I mean, what an
It's a pleasure.
incredible time that I've had with you tonight. And I'm
Likewise.
sure I'm gonna let Mark say, but thank you so much for
Thank you.
your commitment to this. Your passion
Sure.
is evident. Your understanding and your constitutionality, which is really, really big to
Thank
us and most of the people in this group. And expressing and being able to quote from the Constitution or the Bill of Rights or the Declaration of Independence just proves that you are a studied individual. So I just want to thank you so much. Sorry for the technical difficulties at the beginning. And
it's all good. It's all good.
And again, just thank you so much. And I wish you the best in this candidacy.
And thank you.
And when you win the primary, you're going to have to come back on and we're going to talk about what's next.
Absolutely. Absolutely.